This is Dateline. Headline breaking news with a side order of snark. Dateline. The southern borders. If you thought this administration couldn't break any more laws, think again. It seems that the Obama administration is going through the U.S. law code book and breaking them one by one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The recent illegal move by the most lawless administration in history was performed by the Homeland Security and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency known as ICE.
Alright, stop.
As if Homeland Security hadn't done such an exemplary job of securing our homeland that resulted in the most porous border ever, they decided to break a federal law and release criminals actually making our homeland less secure. An internal investigation exposed that between February 9th and March 1st, ICE released 2,226 immigrants into the general population. Of those, 622 of those had criminal records, including 34 Level 1 offenders. A Level 1 offender is the most violent of criminal offenders that includes all aggravated felony convictions. With trickle-down incompetence coming from the Oval Office, ICE didn't even realize it was breaking the law in releasing criminal immigrants until it was informed by House staffers. Dateline. Cormorant, Minnesota. Continuing a streak that is unmatched, the Minnesota voter has voted for another dog of a politician. After being the only state in the union to vote for Walter Mondale back in 1984, electing a comedian to the Senate in Al Franken, and voting not once but twice, count them twice, for the worst president since the Second World War, Barack Obama, the people of Cormorant have voted in an actual dog as mayor.
Say what?
Yep, you heard me right. Duke the dog is now the mayor of the small town in the land of 10,000 lakes. This 7-year-old Great Pyrenees looks to be already an improvement over the President of the United States. Duke doesn't speak because he can't read a teleprompter.
Ouch!
Dateline. Wall Street. Liberal trolls all over social media, when confronted with the perplexing question of name one Obama accomplishment, stammer and stutter and can only come up with the record Dow Jones average. While liberal hypocrisy never shocks me, this one has to be on the top of the list as major league hypocrisies. It's these same liberals, these same Obama supporters back in 2008 that vilified fat cats of Wall Street getting rich while the 99% suffered. It was these same left-wing nuts that created Occupy Wall Street. But now liberals cheer Wall Street?
Oh my God!
They celebrate Wall Street's expanding wealth under Obama's Dow Jones record as the wealth gap between rich and poor gets even wider. These same people who chastised Bush for being only for the rich can only wish that the wealth gap was as small as it was when Bush and the GOP House and GOP Senate got unemployment under 4.5% back in 2006. To these useful idiots, I have no pity. I have only an invitation for them. You cheer Wall Street fat cats now after you camped outside their houses with pitchforks back in 2008? I invite you to please choke on your hypocrisy. Dateline. Flashback. From the June 4th edition, Dateline, Kentucky. Senator Rand Paul had a great idea this week. He gave President Obama a suggestion, and I quote, "Since Obama likes to trade people, why not 5 Democrats?" Unquote. He then suggested 3 to be traded with Mexican authorities for Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi, who's in prison on bogus charges. Paul suggested Gigolo John Kerry, Ansar al-Sharia's favorite, Hillary Clinton, and the great Nancy Pelosi.
I don't know what was so great about the Depression, but that's the name they give it.
Now your humble commentator would like to make suggestions for the last two coveted spots. First, the crookedest Senate Majority Leader ever, Slimy Harry Reid. He's been in charge of every single piece of legislation to come from D.C. in the last 7.5 years. No wonder Congress has a 7% approval rating. And the last spot, soon to be indicted Congressman Elijah Cummings. He's the White House's pinch hitter to try to filibuster any and all of the plethora of scandals plaguing this lawless administration. Dateline, Western Pennsylvania. This last week was a tough week for environmentals in the Keystone State. As every new real data comes to light, the hoax of global warming is looking more and more like that amazing candidate back in 2008 that was going to fix all the world's ills, but turned out to be nothing but a huge fraud.
But let me just speak more generally.
In what can only be described as the last nail in the global warming hoaxer's coffin, it was so cold in West Pennsylvania that the leaves are actually turning color like it's autumn. In August. The temperatures in Pennsylvania this month have dropped into the 40s in the evening hours. Looks like the trees in Pennsylvania are actually smarter than the mentals. The environmentals. I used to say that the environmentals were dumb as stumps. Now, not so much. Dateline, Eric Holder Scandal Update. As we continue to report here on the Ascend Conservatism show, the most lawless Attorney General in history was ordered to turn over all the documents on the Operation Fast and Furious that caused hundreds of deaths on both sides of the Mexican-American border. These are the same documents that Holder and President Obama claimed didn't exist in the first place.
No!
These are the same documents that President Obama tried to hide illegally using executive privilege.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Since a D.C. judge revoked the pathetic attempt at a cover-up, these sure-to-be damning documents must be released. So let's check in on Holder at the Department of Injustice as he is getting all the papers together to be turned over to investigators. If you listen closely, you can actually hear Holder himself gathering all the papers together right now. If you listen carefully. Dateline, Hawaii.
Aloha, aloha.
As we reported last week right here on Dateline, for the first time in Hawaiian history, the incumbent governor lost his re-election bid in the primary. Now some attribute this to the curse of the Barack Obama endorsement, but some think that it might be something else. After last week's Ascend Conservatism show, I received a tweet on Twitter that suggested that it was job performance, or lack thereof. Reina Malama on Twitter suggested that maybe the electorate didn't appreciate Democrat and longtime Obama family friend spending an entire month looking for Obama's birth certificate in Hawaii's Hall of Records. May I suggest that if Governor Abercrombie actually did find the birth certificate, he would have been reelected in a landslide.
Say what?
Yeah, the governor spent an entire month looking through birth records and never found the birth certificate.
Say what?
I'm just saying. Dateline, Montana. The Democrat candidate for United States Senate just dropped out of the race, giving the Republicans an even better chance than before to take control of the Senate after almost 8 years of a disastrous stewardship from Democrat political operative Harry Reid. Joe Walsh pulled out of the race after he was exposed as a plagiarist and the scandal was too much to overcome in the red-leaning state. If it was a blue state, anything short of murder won, and the ethical Democrats stay in power.
Talk about chicken shit.
You know. What sunk Walsh and closed his fate was that he forgot history. Democrats aren't that upset when one of their own steals others' intellectual property and passes it off as their own. All Walsh had to do was come out and say, hey, our vice president is a serial plagiarist and he's still in office. Maybe he'd be okay if Walsh plagiarized Vice President Biden's speech he gave in front of a black crowd in Virginia.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Maybe if he was as much as a condescending race baiter as Biden, he'd still have a future in Democrat politics. Dateline. List of Obama's epic fails. Last week's report on another failed Obama program cost the taxpayers $3 billion.
Say what?
That's chump change for the Obama money printing machine. The Brookings Institute came out with a study of the Obama administration's environmental improvement and job stimulus program last week, and boy, was it a bomb. The program from back in 2009 cost $1.4 million for every job it created and did little to reduce carbon emissions. In comparison, researchers found that one job is created for every additional $95,000 spent on unemployment benefits. But the kicker to this study is that once again, the Obama administration, while claiming to be the champion of the little guy, the Cash for Clunkers was a program mainly benefiting wealthier Americans. The Obama administration, the biggest clunker of them all. Dateline. San Francisco. As Democrats like the crooked Senator Harry Reid try to smear the Koch brothers,
Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers, Koch brothers,
and say the Republican donors are buying influence in politics, the Democrats are actually perfecting the pay-for-play scheme made so popular by Chicago politicians for decades. Democrat House Leader Nancy Pelosi, who herself is worth over $100 million, is knee-deep in a kickback scandal with a Democrat donor, liberal billionaire Tom Steyer. Reports show that Nancy Pelosi funneled $1 billion to a light rail project that would provide transportation to a Mission Bay neighborhood where Steyer's hedge fund, Farallon Capital Management, just so happens to own massive amounts of property. Now, with city transportation, thanks to his friend Pelosi in D.C., these properties' value have skyrocketed. So the Democrats' money laundering cycle comes full circle. Steyer first donates exclusively to Democrats. The Democrat leaders steer taxpayer money right back to benefit Steyer, and he gets even richer. Tell me once again that the Democrats are for the little guy?
Talk about chicken shit.
Dateline. Oakland. As the protests of the shooting of Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri stretch all the way to the West Coast, racial tensions have reached a boiling point nationwide. While no black leaders are calling for people to stop protesting, I myself have one question to everyone in the streets, including race baiters like Al Sharpton and the Black Panthers. Who is Marcel Pearson?
Anyone? Anyone?
Marcel was a 17-year-old black kid about to make it out of the war zone that they call the South Side of Chicago. He was a good student and a good basketball player. He was shot dead playing hoops at the park just days before his college orientation for no apparent reason. Where were the protests for this senseless killing? Where was the Reverend? The Black Panthers? Nothing? Until these community agitators get to the streets of Chicago and work to stop the killings like Marcellus and the other 20 that were gunned down in the 7 days surrounding last July 4th weekend in Chicago, Don't talk to me about no justice, no peace. Dateline, Austin, Texas. In a story that can only be described as, "Are you kidding me?" Texas Governor Rick Perry is being investigated for trying to do his job. Travis County District Attorney Rosemary Lemberg was arrested for drunk driving. Not only did she blow .239 on the breathalyzer, almost 3 times the legal limit, but she was also described by witnesses calling 911 as driving into oncoming traffic and swerving into the bike lane. Lemberg, who is also the head of the Public Integrity Unit,
Say what?
Yeah, can you believe that? Lemberg is just one in a long line of Democrats with no integrity. She refused to resign even after her police booking videos went viral on YouTube.
Get the cuffs off of me now.
As usual, Democrats hold up drunkards as a poster child. In true liberal style, they are sticking up for one of their own who obviously has a problem with the bottle.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking. I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
But that's nothing new. The legend and so-called liberal lion of the United States Senate for decades was a well-known drunk. The ultra-liberal senator from Massachusetts not only was famous for being a stumbling lush, but it seems like he was an inspiration for Rosemary. It was Ted Kennedy who got away with murder for killing his pregnant mistress while driving drunk right off a bridge. Dateline, Mexico. This portion of Dateline is a snark-free zone. Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi, who actually did serve his country with honor and distinction with 2 tours in Afghanistan and is suffering from PTSD, is still suffering in a jail for accidentally making a wrong turn at the border. Andrew's attorney, Fernando Benitez, plans to file a motion this week to throw out evidence obtained in the early hours of his arrest. After his 8-hour detainment on March 31st, he wasn't given a translator to adequately explain why he was being arrested. The motion will claim that this was denying his civil rights. Now everyone out there, let's phone blitz the Mexican Embassy in D.C. at 202-728-1600. That's area code 202-728-1600. Let's give them an incentive to pressure the judge to declare a mistrial and send Andrew home, where he belongs. Dateline, Media Time Machine. While most liberal media are down in Ferguson looking to gin up race clashes, they are acting like they have traveled back in time. These supposed reporters are so obsessed with acting like they are in Selma or Watts back in the clashes during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. You can almost see them looking around in a daze for Alec Baldwin in the movie The Ghost of Mississippi.
On June 12th of 1963, an unarmed man arrives home to his wife and 3 small children, gets out of his car, and with his back turned, is gunned down by a coward.
I have a better idea for these wannabe time travelers. Instead of trying to create something that reminds the country of the past, you have a Pulitzer Prize staring you in the face with the Obama administration recreating history itself today as Barack Obama mirrors Richard Nixon. Between Obama's targeting of his enemies by using a militarized IRS to dead bodies strewn over 2 continents as the Watergate cover-up pales in comparison to the Fast and Furious failed cover-up and the Benghazi failed cover-up. Message to the media. Want a Pulitzer Prize? Join us in present day. You can be the next Woodward and Bernstein, and you can bring down a crooked president, otherwise known as Richard Nixon on steroids.
I am Hans. Yeah, I am Franz, and we are here to pop your...
And that's Dateline for this day, August 18th, 2014. We'll be back right after these messages.